going tomorrow.
We're live, by the way, just in case
Lovely.
that's a secret.
Lovely. No, not at all. No. And going for quite long walks, swimming as well. So, but yes, I've got many years of damage to fix. So,
indeed, has the push notification gone out? Have we had that?
It has.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Oh yes. So it has. Okay.
Carlos just showed up in the chat.
Yeah, he does that. The only thing I haven't got is the time. Oh yes, I have. Here we go. Oh, 30 seconds. Oh no, 10 seconds, yes. Nev. 10 seconds. Oh no.
Get on with it.
Here we go then. Well, we started on time. That's the main thing.
Good.
All right then.
Can you count me in as well?
I will. Yes, absolutely. Fader's going down.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Plane Talking UK podcast. It's episode 555. My name's Nev, and in this week's show we look at the continuing Boeing 787 production delays for American Airlines, a new British Airways policy on the use of social media en route or anywhere on the line for that matter, and United's decision to temporarily suspend Starlink Wi-Fi on board their aircraft due to reported interference with pilots' communication systems. In the military, the German Air Force is to equip their A400M aircraft with infrared protection systems capability, and the story of an RAF pilot's final flight after 45 years in the air. That will actually require quite a lot of fuel and a considerable number of comfort breaks, but hopefully you'll understand what I mean. We'll also be discussing the sad death of prolific author and aviator Frederick Forsyth, who passed away this week, aged 86. And I've got some video to show you of my visit to Bletchley Park today, which I hope you're going to enjoy. It's a fascinating walk through some very important history about the UK's contribution to intercepting messages from overseas. And we'll play that out just after the commercial news segment. Well, we haven't got any Carlos this week because he's in Malta and then complains that it's hot in the second week of June. Unbelievable. But anyway, not to worry. I hope you're listening, Carlos, because I'm sure he'll be there somewhere.
He's always listening.
Of course he is. Anyway, so Matt is taking over the Carlos studio from Gerald.
Indeed. So I'm in a studio, not my usual studio, because I'm looking after the very precious cats. I should stress. It's a very serious job, one which it's very scary. I have to say, we are getting on famously, though. I'm pleased to say we're getting on really well. Thank goodness.
Excellent. So what have you been up to this week, Matt?
It's been a bit of a funny old week. I've had a few challenges this week, but we're sort of soldiering on, as it were. Soldiering on. I'm here. Hello.
Yeah. Good for you.
All part of the fun. How about you? What have you been up to this week?
Very hectic week this week. Yesterday I went down to Heathrow to meet up with Alan White, and it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to you, Alan. And it's also great to meet up with his colleague Morton, who is the director of flight operations for the company that he and Alan work for. So they just brought one of their King Airs into one of the smaller airports here in the UK for some maintenance.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to meet up with Alan and his captain colleague Morton yesterday for a very nice spot of lunch at the Marriott Hotel, the Courtyard.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
yes.
on the Bath Road.
Yes,
So
no, I've been there a few times. Our mutual friend has had a layover or two there, so it's quite a nice little hotel. And I'm going to have to ask the question because the planes are less of an interest to me than what did you have for lunch?
Steak sandwich and chips
Oh.
for me.
Lovely.
Which was very nice. Mind you, I tell you what though, it's a very noisy place to be, but it's also extremely interesting to note the differences in the aircraft sound, because I had the sort of the runway threshold behind me, as it were, so I couldn't see everything. But when something particularly loud took off, I turned around and it was always a Boeing 767-400.
Right.
Noisy thing.
How are those still around, honestly?
Well, they are, aren't they?
Still around with a
there you go.
vengeance. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
But,
Yeah.
Anyway, so after a short absence, joining us again this week is Andy. So hope you are well. How's things with you?
Hello, I'm back again. Full of cold at the moment, unfortunately, but I've been very busy the past couple of weeks. Been all over the UK doing this, that, and the other for work and leisure. But it's lovely to be back.
No flying, just writing about it and doing stuff.
Yeah, spend a lot of time in the sim dreaming up crazy ideas for the next module.
Of
and
course.
then various meetings and all other boring bits and pieces that aren't being in a cockpit.
Excellent. Well, we had to have some balance on as well. So we've got the Airbus captain on, and of course we need some proper balance there. So joining us again this week from his home in the Netherlands is John Jester. Hello, John. And I think you're muted, John, actually,
Oh.
unfortunately.
Try that again. I dressed up for Andy.
Ah.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
In the
Just had
same
to
way,
tease him a
somebody might appreciate a headache.
I still think that an Airbus is a more comfortable flight as a passenger on a narrow body. So okay, I'll give him that. But
You heard it here. You heard it.
Yeah. Quick,
Yeah,
write that one.
I can-
Write that down.
still don't like fly by vote, but okay. But anyways, yeah, so I've been having fun. I attempted to aviate in a light aircraft. It was unsuccessful. We never got the plane off the ground because the alternator was bad on the front engine. We were trying to fly a Cessna 337, the Mixmaster, as they call it. So, given that the weather was typically Dutch, low clouds, rain, windy, the majority of the pilots on the plane were airline pilots. We were like, no, we're going to take it back to maintenance. And they're still working on it. So we'll see what happens. Trying to do a project with one of the universities here and the some German research group over there next week. So kind of a fun for me. Just do something a little different coming up.
Nice. Good for you, John. Well, thank you to everyone that's joined us in the chat room this evening. And I can see that Richard Adams is in there. Mazuz is in there. Tanya, thank you for joining, Tanya. Captain Cruz, Kevin Wallander. Who else is in there? Masha's in there as well. Richard Flagg also. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on the show today. We've got a very busy show today, and we've got 4 military stories, which will please John. And I've actually put a couple in myself.
But wait, whoa, what?
I know.
I think you need to go back to work. You've got way too much time on your hands.
I think you're right. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, again, you heard it
I'll
here
just say
first.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm astounded.
So,
Armando would be so proud.
absolutely. So that should be good. And then we've got some discussions going on as well as usual commercial and military segments. So if you're ready, Matt, let's run the commercial segment.
Oh, that's a very good question. Yes, no, I'm not ready, but I am now. There we go.
Okay.
Captains, turn on the seatbelt light. Please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
This is on simplyflying.com, and it says that American Airlines has suspended 6 transatlantic routes connecting Europe and the US for the upcoming winter season. According to the aviation analytics company Cirium, the Dallas-Fort Worth-based airline will suspend operations on these 6 routes for at least a month. Well, the news comes nearly a week after the airline confirmed that it is adjusting its schedule on 3 transatlantic routes for the upcoming fall and winter season. Whilst it's not entirely clear whether these suspensions are related to Boeing 787 delivery delays, the airline has previously confirmed that some of its earlier schedule adjustments were made due to this issue. Well, Cirium data reveals that the 6 transatlantic routes will be suspended for a period of time during the upcoming winter season, and these routes include New York JFK to Paris Charles de Gaulle, Dallas Fort Worth to Frankfurt, Philadelphia to Zurich, New York to Milan Malpensa, Charlotte to Munich, and New York to Madrid. All those New York rotations are JFKs, by the way. Early in January 2025, the airline suspended 3 European routes and reduced flight frequencies during the peak summer travel season due to ongoing delays in Boeing 787 Dreamliner deliveries. The airline stated at the time that as a result of these delays, American is adjusting service on certain routes in summer 2025 to ensure we are able to reaccommodate customers on affected flights. They just love that. Adjusting service. Not cancelling, adjusting service.
What does that even mean?
It means adjusting service.
Right.
And cancelling.
Okay, fair.
But I mean, this is not just a Boeing problem. I think Airbus's order book is, bursting at the seams, and I would imagine that there's problems there, and also engine difficulties as well with both manufacturers. I think I'm right in saying, Andy, aren't I?
Yep, and there's been a massive supply chain issue since COVID, and the backlog's still there, unfortunately. And we're talking about minor parts, but without them, the aircraft can't go flying. No. Unfortunately.
No, very true.
Yeah, that's a big problem. And of course, these things can't get fixed quickly. And once you've built up the backlog that you've got, you could almost never get ahead of the game. You're always playing catch up, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it's going through the heavy maintenance facilities where they do the overhauls on the engines. They've had a high workload on a lot of the aircraft going through there. And then it takes a long time to turn them through. A lot of money and time is invested in each of those overhauls. And so when they come up, if you don't have one part to put it back together, the whole engine sits there and waits, which has been a bit of a problem for quite a few different airframes recent.
Yep, absolutely right. Yep. Well, Matt, the next story is for you, and it's an iconic airline with a relaunch. Indeed,
absolutely. We do love a relaunch. It's VincentTimes.com is the source on that one. www.vincenttimes.com if you want to find out the full details on this. Pan Am Airways' relaunch of iconic airline. Pan Am Global Holdings, the owner of the intellectual property rights for Pan American World Airlines, is exploring options to revive the iconic airline brand as a scheduled commercial airline 34 years after it ceased operations. The company is working with aviation merchant bank and consulting firm Aviate Air Capital to assess the feasibility, structure and financial strategy of a potential relaunch. Craig Carter, CEO of Pan Am Global Holdings, expressed excitement in partnering with Aviate to bring the Pan Am brand back to the skies as a scheduled commercial airline. Pan Am, originally founded as a Pan American Airways, was the largest international carrier based in the US for decades, enjoying a near monopoly on foreign travel and leading the industry's adoption of jet aircraft. It reached its peak of prestige between the 1950s and the 1970s, becoming synonymous with the glamour of international air travel and high-quality amenities. However, its fortunes turned after the oil shock of the 70s, which hurt demand and deregulation of the American airline industry under President Jimmy Carter, exposed the carrier to new levels of competition. After years of losses, Pan Am filed for bankruptcy back in 1991.
Now, do you know how many attempts there have been to revive Pan Am since then?
I mean, in the time that I've been doing been doing the podcast with Carlos here, I'm aware of at least 2.
In total, it's 5 times they've tried to bring Pan Am back.
Wow. Okay.
So good luck to them.
I mean, is it? I mean, it's a name. I mean, even people who know nothing about aviation like I do. I mean, I know the name Pan Am Airways. It sort of rings a bell. I mean, are they sort of hoping that sort of like memory, if you like, is enough to make people think, oh yeah, let's fly with Pan Am, or at least give it a look? I mean, I think they're still going to have to be competitive on price and things like that, because it's a much more consumer based industry than it's ever been, really, where you're not flying because, I mean, I know people who were always flying with Emirates, not because it was the cheapest, but because that's who they wanted to fly with. I mean, I can't help but feel those days are gone now.
I think it'll have to be a super low-cost start-up to begin with.
Yeah, that or it's got to be really, really high quality and try and attract a very high money group. I don't see it. I think because it's going to be like I'll put that bet down like what Andy has with Global Airlines. It's
I was going to say, which one do you think is more likely to get off the ground?
I might modify it. Say I'll put an Airbus model up here on my shelf.
Deal.
Now
right.
Now we're talking.
So no, this is not going to happen. I just don't see it. I mean, the last Pan Am died only a couple of years ago, like right before COVID, really? Around COVID.
Yeah,
you see it down there in Miami all the time. It was an amazing airline. It died because of deregulation. I don't see that it's going to come back anytime, and I wish it would. I have a family member that was a longtime Pan Am employee. He was part of the Pan Am jazz band. He carried the 747 doing sales, like huge 747s, like 2 meters long, 2 meters wide model. He carried all around the world doing sales for the Pan Am, and loves the airline dearly. He has all kinds of paraphernalia, and he would love to see it come back, but it's never going to come back. No way.
Yeah, and also, as you say, John, it was before the deregulation, but also, I mean, how they kept it going for the amount of time that they did with the oil crisis of the 1970s as well. It had been hemorrhaging money for a long time, hadn't it? So,
yeah, I mean, they focused very much on the international markets, and that was what was getting them by. They didn't have a lot of competition, and then the 747 came along and allowed them to do a lot of things with it. But yeah, it's just always a challenging industry, and to get something to get up. I mean, what's the last like really successful carrier that's really gotten somewhere and done something? I mean, in the U.S., it's like maybe JetBlue. Everything else is sort of skirting around the edges. Spirits, Frontier, both skirting around the edges, both near death. Who knows? I don't see it.
I guess with JetBlue, obviously they've got their domestic schedule, but of course they're able to run the across the North Atlantic as well now. So it gives them both, different options for different different fares, different types of customer.
And they have a lot of north-south flying down into the Caribbean, Central South America as well. So I mean, they have a pretty diversified schedule. It's just and some partnerships with some major international carriers to allow them to do code shares. So that's the last one. And that Neilman who set it up, I mean, he's just he has a golden touch. I mean, I think he set up. He's partially involved, I think, in Southwest. He did JetBlue. He did WestJet, and he's doing Breeze. And Breeze is doing okay. I mean, I wouldn't say that they've made the success market yet fully, but they're doing okay. They're holding their own. But that's a very special individual that's kind of driving that and got the abilities. I don't see this having it. I don't see any names that are mentioned in here that would say, hey, it's going to happen.
Yeah, so we're not going to hold our breath on that, I don't think.
Don't see any Airbus models coming in my way very soon.
I've got one on my shelf just for you, John.
It's got your name
Come
on
on,
it and
Pan Am.
everything, yeah.
Oh dear. Right, Andy, this next story is with you, and it's about a new policy that's come in regarding cabin crew interaction with social media.
Yes, and this is from paddleyourown.canoe.com. British Airways cabin crew forbidden from taking photos of layover hotels in latest social media ban. Cabin crew at British Airways have been forbidden from taking any photos of layover hotels in popular locations like the Maldives, Cape Town and Singapore in the Heathrow-based carrier's latest social media clampdown. In a new edict, cabin crew have been told to wipe any existing photos or videos of layover hotels from their social media accounts, even if they are private, over fears that terrorists could use AI tools to pinpoint where British Airways staffers stay. Aircrew have long been banned from publicly posting or discussing the names and locations of layover hotels, both in the UK and Europe, as well as across the rest of the world, but until now, photos and videos of hotel rooms and buildings were permitted. British Airways' new social media rules, however, bar pilots, cabin crew, or any other airline employees from posting photos or videos anywhere in a layover hotel or crew transport. The airline told staffers that it had been compelled to make the change because someone with suspicious intentions could use sophisticated computer software to analyse even an innocent-looking background to identify the hotel and location. Now, the new rules effectively ban, and these are phrases I don't understand because I don't use social media, popular GRWM, which is Get Ready With Me videos taken in hotel rooms and bathrooms that show crew makeup routines, OOTD, Outfit of the Day videos that showcase crew putting on their uniforms ahead of a flight, sunbathing photos at a hotel pool or private beach, or group photos taken in a grand hotel lobby. The new ban comes just over 2 years after British Airways introduced strict new rules on cabin crew posting social media content while in uniform or aboard aircraft. In February 23, British Airways told pilots and cabin crew they would face disciplinary action if they posted any content of themselves while professionally engaged in their job. That clampdown was reported in response to a growing trend of cabin crew publicly documenting their lives, conducting security checks, serving passengers, and unwittingly disclosing sensitive information that could pose a security threat. Following backlash over the policy, British Airways said it was welcomed crew sharing photos and videos on social media, so long as they wore their uniforms correctly and only when they weren't meant to be working. Well, I completely agree with a complete ban on any form of social media while on any company property or wearing any company uniform. You're there to do a job, for starters. I get that point here that even though they're on a layover, you're still at work. And you're still an ambassador for the company as well, and you need to do everything to protect the reputation and the safety of the company and your fellow colleagues. Yeah, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, of course, back in the day, before social media or before the internet, there was no opportunity for this kind of stuff, was there really? Because there was no method of posting things. And I'm sure all the crew had a great time, down route or wherever they were going. But it's really got out of hand now. Some of the things that I've been seeing from some of the crews recently, not all BA, I have to say, but others as well, have just been, they're pretty unprofessional, I have to say. And at the end of the day, I think you're representing the company, whether you're actually being paid by the hour or at that time, or later on tomorrow or something like that. I just think it's it's an area which is, I think the airlines probably are behind the curve on it as well. That they probably should have put things in place beforehand, but unfortunately something has to happen before they do something about it.
John, do you have any problems with this at your airline?
Yeah, we had recently a message came out, and they played both ends of the spectrum. They're like, no social media, no picture taking, no videos while you're at work. And then they asked simultaneously for pictures while we're at work. So I don't know. I agree with this, that you definitely put yourself into a lot of risk for your facilities. I think I would probably be more focused on where the bans existed. OSINT, open source intelligence, is a real thing. There's a guy who has a YouTube channel who basically his only deal is he finds the locations of pictures, and the pictures are innocuous pictures like a drink on a table and no information is given, and he's able to find the exact restaurant and table through OSINT.
Oh wow.
And it's full on scary, so that definitely puts you at risk. We definitely think about it in our jobs, because where we go, what we carry. I don't always, like, sometimes I don't post at all about what I'm doing. A lot of times I don't post at all, much less than I used to even. And I agree. It's you got to be careful with this, but there's a lot of people out there that are giving them lots of free advertising by showing their jobs. They need to be doing it professionally. We have one of our captains now who has a really good channel. I'll give him a shout out, 7-4 Gear, and he was actually highlighted in the sort of follow-on memo because everybody was confused what they wanted from us. He said, "Well, no, look, if you want to ask how to do it right, talk to him." And I think that's kind of a good way. You got to have some. I think there's definitely good reason for restrictions. A full-out ban maybe is a bit much, because if you can tell the difference between one Hilton and another Hilton, good luck. I mean, I used to have that problem. I'd wake up in places and go, I don't know where I'm at.
Yes.
I know what hotel I'm in. I don't know where I'm at. And then I, look at the phone at the weather and go, still don't know where I'm at, because I don't recognize where town popped up.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is, in our industry and all industries, in every part of the job, you have to factor for the lowest common denominator, and that's why most of these blanket bans come in, and procedures where you think, why isn't that obvious? Stuff like that, unfortunately.
Because, I mean, there are a lot of things that are very, there are a lot of good things that come out of social media as well, to be fair. And as you're saying, like brand representation, if it's done right, like the example that John's giving there, I think it's a hugely powerful tool for sort of like telling the day, because people are really interested in these day in the life of type sort of things. And I do know a lot of airlines, especially like what I call like the commercial ones that are flying around, do tend to have like people who have been granted permission to represent the company, if you like, on social media. I mean, maybe that's the thing, is it's a blanket ban with exceptions.
There's been that before in some airlines, where there's been like a little social media team, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
Then that's sort of been moved away from. I know in my airline, they do some of these sort of things, but it all comes from the official airline account.
Yeah.
So that it's fully controlled. They control the narrative and the source material for it all.
Yeah.
I thought I knew a bit about social media, but when you see these acronyms like GRWM
Yeah.
and OOTD,
Now?
Now, what I'd like to see is a Get Ready With Me with John Jester in the Hilton in Anchorage or something. Now, that I'd watch.
Right.
I would not. Especially in the Hilton in Anchorage right now, because it's under construction. So all you would hear is
pity.
hammer drills and me complaining about how hot it is, and train horns because it's right next to the train yard.
Lovely. Yeah.
No, I think, I mean, people get into it. We have another video person that does it. I can't remember what her handle is. I would give it a shout, but hers is like mostly travel stuff, and sometimes her getting ready and all that. But it's totally like not geared towards an aviation crowd at all. But the question is about security is, how long do you wait until it's posted? How much information you give one way or the other? Does it put you at risk? Does it put anybody else at risk? I think that's definitely a concern that has to be played out nowadays with so much unrest throughout the world.
Yeah,
Very
couldn't
true.
agree more.
Very
Absolutely,
true.
John. Well, we haven't covered the subject of unauthorised use of lasers for a while. Didn't take long because we've got another one coming up. John, you're going to tell us all about this one.
Yeah, this one comes from aviation2z.com.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Emirates Boeing 777 pilots blinded by laser while landing. Major aviation safety concern unfolded at Chennai Airport when an Emirates flight from Dubai was struck by a green laser beam during its final approach on Thursday, June 5th, 2025. The Boeing 777-300ER, carrying 304 passengers, was forced to abort its initial landing after a laser blinded the flight crew. This marks another alarming instance in a rising pattern of laser interference near airports. The incident occurred Thursday night as Emirates flight EK 542 was on descent into Chennai International Airport. When the aircraft was about 6 nautical miles from touchdown, a powerful green laser beam struck the cockpit, prompting the pilots to immediately go around and inform Chennai Air Traffic Control. ATC alerted the Greater Chennai Police, and the laser was switched off shortly after. The flight landed safely on 25N, Gindi side of the main runway. However, authorities warned that such laser activity severely impairs pilots' visibility. Ability to see, I would say more, not their visibility, but especially during the landing, a critical flight phase. According to officials at the Airport Authority of India, laser interference constitutes a hazardous incident. AAI stated that shining laser beams at aircraft poses a severe threat by impairing vision, especially during critical landing phases. The AAI urged the public to report such actions immediately to local authorities. The Greater Chennai Police reinforced the warning. Public advisors stating that activities such as flashing laser beams, releasing hot air balloons, launching tethered or light-emitting objects near airports threaten flight safety. Legal consequences will follow for the offenders. According to the GCP advisory, directing laser beams at aircraft can cause temporary blindness or serious distraction for pilots. It not only endangers the lives of the passengers and crew, but also disrupts airport operations. Such acts fall under Section 125 of the, not going to say it, complicated words, categorized as an act of endangering the life or personal safety of others. If we could only have some hard points on the bottom of the aircraft so that we could target the person shooting the laser at us, I'd be very happy. I've been hit by lasers 6 times.
Oh, wow.
Once has left a permanent mark in my eye. And I have no patience for them at all. If I could drop a bomb on them, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Wow.
That's how I feel about it.
It's particularly unpleasant. I've been hit a couple of times as well. It's really not nice.
I mean, and forgive my naivety on this one. Are they like super powerful lasers, or are they the little ones that I used to have to chase the cat around the floor with?
Depends what they've got hold of.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of Chinese ones are super, super strong. They have green and blue lasers that will cut through paper.
Oh, wow.
And they're little handheld, like flashlight-sized devices. And I don't know how Andy's experience was, but the worst one I got was like being punched in the face.
Yeah, not quite that bad. The worst one I ever had was flying into Corfu as well, which is not the easiest airport to fly into. And then the last thing you want as you try to line up with a runway is to suddenly get blinded in my left eye by a laser on it in the woods on a hillside as well. I don't know what they were doing there. It's not pleasant.
So you're on short final, were you?
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea, do you guys have those Christmas light decorations? There are lasers that just like they put one thing out there and it puts a whole bunch of dots on front of your house.
Yeah,
that's just a very American. It's a very American thing, and when you go into LA and Phoenix during that time of year, I don't know, they go for the easy concept, and the entire time you're going on the final approach, you constantly get these little speckles of color being shot up into the cockpit like every 5-10 seconds, and it's distracting. And that's a very, very low laser level. These big pointers or ones they use that are like almost like to light something up. They're like a military grade, and they can cause damage.
Wow.
You see them in the mostly peaceful rioting in LA right now. They've been using them, shining at the police officers and helicopters and stuff there, and they can do damage.
It's horrific, isn't it? And I think the other problem, of course, is with the way that the windscreens are shaped in the cockpit, you've got all this light refraction going on as well. So it's almost a sort of a double hit, isn't it, as well? Absolutely horrific. I can't imagine what it'd be like. And the contrast ratio between the relative darkness of the cockpit and the outside, and suddenly having this extremely intense focused light must be horrific.
Well, and hence, I suppose, as you were saying there, John, like it's like being punched in the face because you've gone from, just the low dim lights that are coming off the various displays and stuff that are in front of you to wallop.
Oh yeah, definitely. I tend to like it bat cave dark inside the cockpit. I turn my screens way down. I want to have my really good night vision acuity when I'm coming in, and when all of a sudden you get this super bright light coming in at you, the whole flight deck will light up in whatever color the laser is. Usually it's these green ones, and you find yourself ducking behind a glare shield. I think the last time I got hit when I was still flying the regional jet, where it was a real bad hit, I told ATC I was turning off all my lights and asked for a heading change, try and get away from it, because they were tracking me with the laser. So
yeah, horrific.
I mean, and again, so, sorry if this seems like a daft question, but I mean, is there some form of filter that could be applied? I mean, we shouldn't be having to, change things just because of Muppets, essentially, but I guess that's the world in which we live in, as we were sort of talking about in an earlier story. But, I mean, is there a filter or something that can be sort of added, like a film that can be added to the windscreen, for example, that could potentially help?
The problem with the windscreens is that they're malleable, they're heated surfaces. And
there are glasses, though. I don't know if you've seen those, Andy.
Yeah, I've seen the glasses, but to the actual windscreen itself, it's triple paned, and like I said, it's malleable because it's heated, so I don't know how you would do that, and also what it would have to be. I prefer the windows to be nice and clear, personally. I have used at night the sunshades as well. That can help block various bits and pieces out if you know it's potentially going to happen. I just wish, as John said there, I wish there was an easier way to identify where they were firing these lasers from, because it is, in every country, it's a criminal offence. And they'll say to you, like, well, where did you see it? I was like, well, I told ATC at this point. Well, how many miles away was it? Oh, don't know. That's incredibly difficult to judge when you're at a few thousand feet above the ground, unfortunately.
In my case, I was lucky. The very first one, it lased me. I had a general idea where it was. We reported it. And then a couple of days later, a U.S. Army Apache helicopter was flying by the same area, got lased by the same brainiac.
Idiots, yes.
And they carry the lenses on their helmets to protect themselves from the laser, so they kept flying along. And the front seat guy that would normally be able to use the gun, and couldn't unfortunately use the gun, but he could use the cameras that used to do the targeting, and they slayed it onto the idiot, and were able to shoot their infrared laser back at it and get an exact latitude, longitude, what they'd normally use to target and fire something at it. But they were able to get that latitude and longitude. They called the state police. State police then got some laser protective eyewear and did the same thing a couple of nights later, with the state troopers ready to go right behind them. So they were actually able to arrest the guy that got me.
Good.
And
Wow.
he was convicted. So, and then the second time, one of the other times I had it happen to me, one of the last times I had it happen to me, the guy I was flying with was from the area, knew the airport area that was coming from, knew the streets, the cross streets, and was able to give exact cross streets where it was at. So somebody probably got caught with that one, hopefully, as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, as Andy was sort of alluding to, I mean, aircraft windscreens have to operate over an incredible temperature range, don't they? From probably plus 50 degrees C on the ground to minus 60 or 70 degrees C in the air. And therefore, the technology to do with that is complicated enough without having to try and mitigate for this kind of stuff as well, I'd imagine.
No, that's a fair argument, to be fair. Very fair.
Yeah. So if anyone wants another A380, there's one going, or in fact, it's just been scrapped actually. So this
Lovely.
one's at an ex Malaysia Airlines one getting scrapped in France. So Setna IO has acquired another ex-Malaysian Airlines A380, which will be scrapped. The aircraft, which is currently stored at Tarbes Lourdes Pyrenees Airport in France, will be scrapped for high demand components. This move reflects the ongoing trend of dismantling A380s amid low resale value and rising demand for second-hand parts. Sedna IO continues its focus on supporting active A380 operators through recycled components. Well, on June the 4th, Setna IO confirmed the acquisition of the retired Airbus A380 previously operated by a Malaysian, which retains 3 of its 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 900 engines. The aircraft, which was stored at Tarbes Lourdes Pyrenees Airport, will be disassembled by Tarmac Aerosave, a European company recognised for aircraft storage and recycling. All 6 A380s retired by Malaysian Airlines are currently owned by Airbus Financial Services and stored at the same French facility. This transfer was part of a broader fleet renewal strategy by the Malaysian Aviation Group, which exchanged its A380 fleet in a deal involving 20 Airbus A330-900 aircraft, 10 directly from Airbus and 10 from Irish lessor Avalon. Since November 2024, Malaysian Airlines has already taken delivery of 3 A330-900s, including the most recent arrival on April the 17th of this year. These actions contribute to a growing list of decommissioned A380s. As of May 2025, 29 A380s have been dismantled, including Lufthansa's MSN 48 and MSN 73, which were both scrapped in May of this year. That's absolutely incredible. I had no idea of the number of those aircraft that are being scrapped and parted out. Presumably, Airbus are just not making parts for them anymore.
Well, I guess so. Or the parts are extremely expensive to get made now, so it's better to salvage them from aircraft that are going to the scrappers anyway.
I was surprised that they were still owned by like the Airbus financing company, if you see what I mean, because presumably there are some years behind them. They're not young aircraft that are being retired.
But if you trade in your if Nev wants to trade in one of his Focus STs of the past, then that goes and trade it in for another one, and it goes through Ford Finance. It's just like doing your car, really. You can do the same with aircraft,
right? Okay.
I suppose the difference with aircraft is often the engines are leased from a different company to the airframe, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
But nonetheless, that leasing in that fashion is quite a normal thing, isn't it? But presumably, I mean, Airbus, I would imagine, have decommissioned the tooling for some of the parts that they would be making, which is why parts availability is so poor, and they've existing A380 operators have got to go to the scrapper to find the bits that they need.
Lucrative business.
Somebody's making money.
It is, yeah, very much so. Yeah, parting out and retrieval is extremely valuable, I would imagine. Absolutely, yeah. Next story is with you, John. Regard to a faulty part that's been found on a 737 from American.
Yeah, this one comes from FlightGlobal.com. Wrongly fitted vane actuator parts found after American 737 engine fire. U.S. investigators found a number of flaws in the right-hand engine of a Boeing 737-800, which caught fire at Denver after a diversionary landing, having exhibited vibration during the flight. The fire in the CFM56 power plant ensued after the American Airlines jet had taxied to a gate and the crew had shut down both engines. They covered that one with them standing on the wings. Passengers and crew subsequently evacuated. Of the 178 occupants, 12 passengers suffered minor injuries during the March 13th occurrence, and the aircraft was substantially damaged. Examination of the affected engine revealed that while all the flame blades were present, one had a fracture in the blade platform. Problems were also observed in a variable stator vane system. The vanes adjust their position through actuators driven by pressurized fuel to optimize high pressure compressor performance. That's a tongue twister. But the inspection found that an actuator rod end was incorrectly fastened and secured to the vane actuator, allowing a fuel leak from the fitting, says the National Transportation Safety Board. Its preliminary findings state that the lock wire of a fuel fitting on the variable stator vane was loose and installed in the incorrect direction. The inquiry adds that a linkage in the vane component was fractured, and the examination also found drain line blockage in part of a thrust reverser. The investigators have yet to reach conclusions about the event. Maintenance records for the engine are under review, and a number of components have been retained for further analysis. The crew had received an exhaust gas overtemperature warning for the right-hand engine as aircraft departed Colorado Springs for Dallas. Although the crew reduced power slightly to keep the temperature within limits, they also noted indications of high vibration and opted to divert to Denver. After landing, the aircraft took about 5 minutes to taxi to the gate. Video from the Denver airport operations showed a trail of fluid leaking from beneath the right engine's nacelle during the taxi. Says the inquiry, it adds that the evacuation was initiated when fire broke out. After the aircraft reached the gate and the crew had shut down both engines, ramp personnel extinguished the fire. That's before the arrival of 3 firefighting vehicles. And that was covered, and it was a great job by the ramp workers there. I think it's going to be an interesting investigation to see where that work was done. Was that done in an overhaul? Was it done by American? Was it done by GE? Was it done by a third-party overhaul vendor? Because that's stuff that usually the blades are inspected on an overhaul. They take all the blades off the engine. They run them through various non-destructive testing systems, looking for cracks, anything's developing, and whole airplane, whole engine's just torn apart and put back together. And if they're being put back together incorrectly by somebody, really need to find that out and then check the other engines too. So
yeah, I think that's the main point. It's been put back incorrectly. It always fastens me on the CFM56 as well, because I've got a lot of experience with this engine. Not the model that's on the 7.3, but it's not much different on the 320 or these variable stator vanes. The pressure is the pressure to move them is fuel. I've always thought that's fascinating, and why it's not something a little less volatile, such as air or hydraulic fluid. But yeah, it just shows the damage that can occur from one thing being fitted incorrectly here. You can cause a massive fire.
I think the fuel is used because it's already there.
Yeah.
You don't add another fluid into the system. Oil
and use oil pressure.
Yeah, where oil pressure is relatively low, and I think the fuel pressure is relatively high. Right? I mean, if you think about it, because I think you're probably running 110, 120 psi on oil.
Around that, yeah.
And then much higher for fuel, because they had to vaporize it.
That's a fair point.
So they can run a smaller line to do it. And I think that's part of it. Keep the weight down. You know how that is. But the CF-34 uses the same thing. GE does that on the CF-34. The variable stator vanes were all fuel actuated, and if they go wrong, they can do some serious damage. I saw one engine that was similar thing. The rod end was not properly secured. It came loose, allowed those various stator vanes to move freely. They fluttered momentarily and then departed out the back of the engine along with the rest of the components in the back of the engine. So, they're lucky that it actually was this minor. Unlucky that they had a fire. So,
yeah, and also it's all about checking, isn't it? It's all about supervision and having your work checked at the end of the day.
Well, definitely in this kind of stuff, it's definitely slow is fast, fast is slow. Kind of a mentality needs to be taken care of. So
No, you're right, absolutely. Well, Andy's got the next story, and often we talk about crew going out of hours, but this is an airport that's gone out of hours.
Ooh.
Yes, this is from FlightRadar24.com, and Condor flight misses Munich curfew by seconds. A Condor flight from Palma de Mallorca missed the curfew at Munich by mere seconds earlier this week. Flight Delta Echo 1513 was just 2,100 feet from touching down when the clock ticked over 12:30 a.m., forcing the aircraft to divert to Frankfurt-Hahn, 375 kilometers away. The story was first reported by German newspaper Bild, who had just happened to have a reporter on the flight. Many German airports have a strict nighttime curfew, and airlines and airports can be heavily fined for operations outside permitted times. The standard curfew at Munich is midnight, though exemptions are allowed until 12:30 a.m. if requested before a flight departs. That is precisely what happened in this case, with Condor requesting exemption. Unfortunately, the flight was further delayed and just barely missed its arrival window. They did not start off well for Condor's A321 registered Delta Alpha Tango Charlie Alpha. The aircraft arrived overnight in Hamburg and was scheduled out to Hurghada at 6:05 a.m. The flight departed nearly 90 minutes later, but made up some time landing just an hour late. The aircraft then operated between 60 to 90 minutes late for the rest of the day, eventually extending into early of the morning of 3rd of June and breaking the Munich curfew. So what happens to the passengers? Well, from Hahn, passengers were bused to Frankfurt and placed on Condor's morning flight to Munich, arriving just before 8 a.m. the following day, more than 9 hours after their scheduled arrival. Adding insult to injury, the aircraft that diverted actually ferried back to Munich ahead of the passengers.
Oh,
Well, there we are.
That's a bad move. That's
Now,
bad.
I've had several experiences with German curfews, and they are very, very strict with it, and the fines way outstrip the benefits of breaking the curfew.
Really.
Oh, right.
Which I guess is the whole point in the curfew.
Yeah, but is
Hamburg,
this a few seconds, though? I mean, if it really was a few
yeah.
seconds, is that not...
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you're still done. And in some airports, I have heard the rumours that the breaking the curfew is not on the company, it's on the pilot in command.
Ooh.
And that fine can be passed on to the pilot in command.
Oh.
So that's why, if I was him, I'd have done exactly the same and gone somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. As I say, it's just.
I mean, that's a good few holidays ruined for the year then if you can't pay for them.
True.
Because you've had to pay this fine.
Because you've got to pay this fine, yeah. And as I say, it's just the insult to injury, though, with this particular story, isn't it? In the fact that the plane that they were actually using, the plane that they arrived there on, ended up being back where it started before they did. That's a bit of
absolutely.
You know, it's a bit of a kicker, isn't it?
This has got to be the most German story I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Dirk, this is all your fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
It's just crazy. You know, the funny part is Frankfurt Hahn's where I fly to quite a bit, so I probably know what the bus company was that moved them. And I was wondering why they'd even bother doing that because there's a hotel there. I would have kept them there and then flown them out the next day, but. Yeah, that's just ironic. And I'm now very glad to hear that my contract would cover me no matter what, because any kind of fines can't be put on to me. They get paid for by my company. So,
and of course, the other problem is with these multi-sector days, if you start off, well, in this case, it was an hour to an hour and a half late for the beginning of the sectors, you're never going to make that up, whatever happens. And so you're really up against it towards the end of the day. Obviously, you might have crew changes, but if the aircraft's late leaving, then unless there's some sort of miracle or big weather event down route somewhere, it's impossible to make it up, isn't it?
Hopefully, Condor have learned from this that they might need to shuffle aircraft and crew around at some point during the day. Because that is the problem especially with the type of flying that these airlines do and I do. The aircraft are out doing 8 sectors a day. It's not so bad if it's 2 sectors, because then once you're airborne, you don't really have any delays. But it's all the ground delays that cause all the issues. Normally passengers as well.
It's always the first and last 100 meters.
Yeah, it is.
That's it.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
Well, I always say to everybody I fly with, if we get on an aircraft that's delayed, everybody starts rushing around. I'm like, let's just work normally here because it's only the last sector where it matters for us.
Mm.
That's the one. That's the one you've got to focus everything on to get back on time.
Have you ever had to divert, Andy, because you've been curfewed?
Yeah, several times in Germany. Yep. Just happens. We had a base in Hamburg for quite some time, and I was sent out there to operate for a while, and 2 out of the 5 nights I was there, I ended up elsewhere.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just the way it went.
Yeah. Well, talking of flight delays, Matt's got the next story here, all about passenger compensation for flight delays.
Indeed.
What a segue.
He's like a pro and everything, isn't he? TheLocal.com is our source on this one. And the headline, passenger compensation for flight delays set to decrease in Europe. Airline passengers in the EU enjoy the world's most generous system of compensation if their flight is delayed or cancelled. However, these rights seem set to decrease after the European Council agreed to an overhaul of compensation rules following intense lobbying from the airline industry. The agreement to extend delay times and cut compensation levels was made at a European Council summit despite opposition from Germany and Spain. Controversially, the Council bypassed discussions with the European Parliament and made its decision legally binding using a process that has not been deployed in more than a decade. However, the European Parliament can still make changes to the rules. It has 4 months to respond with a proposal that must be backed by a majority of 361 MEPs. So what's changing? The ruling doesn't scrap all customer protections, but it changes the rules on compensation payments, changing both the payment amounts and the delay time after which compensation rules must kick in. Under current EU air passenger rights regulation rules, passengers can claim between €250 and €600 in compensation if a flight is delayed by at least 3 hours, if the delay is the fault of the airline. Under the agreed changes, compensation will only be due after a 4-hour delay for flights of less than 3,500 kilometres. For longer flights, airlines would be obliged to pay compensation if flights land at least 6 hours late compared to the current 3-hour standard. Under the rules, the new rules, €300 compensation will apply for delays of more than 4 hours, while €500 will be payable for delays of more than 6 hours involving flights of more than 3,500 kilometres. In exchange for the higher delay thresholds, airlines will have to streamline the complex and challenging compensation process in which many airlines make it very complicated to claim financial compensation, but very easy to claim airline vouchers. There is also a strengthening of the rights for passengers with a disability. And just to finish off the story, what doesn't change? Other compensation rules remain unchanged, especially around the extraordinary circumstances definition, which covers whether airlines have to provide any compensation at all. Compensation for delays or cancellations is not paid if the problem is due to extraordinary circumstances. The exact definition of this in the legislation is vague, but generally applies to situations like extreme weather, political instability, security risks, or problems with air traffic control, presumably including if they go on strike.
I do hope everyone is keeping up with that, because we'll be asking questions at the end.
Yes, absolutely.
It's. I mean, I have a lot of sympathy for the low-cost carriers in particular, where you end up with delays outside of your control. Maybe a pushback tug has gone faulty or something, and most people on that flight have paid €80 for their flight, for example, and then you end up having to pay a lot of money in compensation. Presumably there's insurance available to the airlines for that, but it's really frustrating, obviously. But yeah, the amount of compensation that's payable is substantial now. And I think that must make it really difficult, especially during difficult weather conditions as well. Although I'm sure there's going to be exceptions, where the airlines quite rightly would say, well, that's outside of our control. The runway wasn't de-iced, or the aircraft wasn't de-iced, or whatever it was. But yeah, it's a bit of a thing, isn't it?
Most airlines actually set aside a pot of money each year for this, because they set aside a pot and it barely ever empties, because it's not it's not like delay replay pay on the trains in the UK, where it's an automatic payment, you get the money back. You have to apply for this, and you have to go through all of the hoops to get it. This does make now, though, if these changes go through, then the UK will have a more generous scheme, because we just copied and pasted EU 261. So it'll be interesting to see if we change ours as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right, well, the next story, this is quite an interesting one, and John's going to take this one for us, about Starlink and some of the problems that the Wi-Fi systems have caused with pilots' communication systems.
All right. This one again comes from Aviation A to Z. I figured out the website now. United suspends Starlink Wi-Fi due to interference with pilot comms. United Airlines has temporarily paused Starlink Wi-Fi on its regional Embraer 175 jets due to radio interference issues. The decision affects flights departing from major hubs like Chicago O'Hare, where many of these aircraft are based. The airline has confirmed that nearly 24 aircraft equipped with SpaceX's Starlink technology are now flying without internet, citing concerns related to communication system disruptions. United Airlines, in partnership with Starlink, has outfitted 20-plus Embraer E175 regional jets with the satellite-based high-speed Wi-Fi. However, shortly after the rollout, the carrier identified a technical problem involving static interference affecting VHF radios, a system pilots rely on to communicate with air traffic control. As exclusively reported by TPG, pilots experienced static immediately following the radio transmission of aircraft fitted with the Starlink antennas. Although the airline has stated there is no risk to flight safety, it acted out of caution by disabling Wi-Fi systems fleet-wide while a fix is applied. This issue is not unprecedented. United previously encountered similar interference while integrating Viasat on mainline aircraft, a complication that was swiftly resolved. Similarly, United and Starlink have now pinpointed the source of the interference and developed a solution currently being implemented across the affected aircraft. About one-third of the impacted E175 jets have already received a fix and resumed Wi-Fi service. United plans to complete the rollout during scheduled maintenance rotations to avoid service disruptions or flight cancellations. The approach allows for seamless reactivation without affecting travelers' itineraries. While this temporary outage will impact summer flyers hoping to use Starlink, the airline emphasizes that the overall timeline for fleet-wide integration remains unchanged. I generally go on airplane mode when I'm on a plane because I like the quiet. I just put my tunes on, zone out, maybe a podcast. So don't care if I don't have Wi-Fi.
Likewise.
Yes, I'm amazed that any of it works at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And you know what happens? I mean, in my world or my previous world of professional audio, you take a Dell laptop or something and you put one of those power supply bricks near a USB interface or a radio mic, and the RF that these things put out, although it's local, is absolutely incredible. And that happens with mobile phones as well. So I'm amazed that they can get good stuff working here in the first place. So I'm not surprised that they have the occasional hiccup here and there, and someone's got to do a firmware update or some kind of fix to make this stuff work.
Is the interference coming from the receiving of the satellite signal, or is it the presumably quite strong Wi-Fi that's inside the aircraft that is causing the issue?
It does not say.
It could be any or all the above.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The radio geek in me, I do amateur radio some, and
because
everything can cause the interference. Like touch
Yeah.
lamps,
yes,
are notoriously bad for HF radios.
yeah.
And this has got high power transmitter. It's got a complex steered array antenna. It has all the wiring connections, which could be just running past another VHF antenna bundle. There's so many things that could be there. And if they identified it, I'm sure just isolating it, getting grounded or bonded or shielded so that it's better. It's
Yeah. Because I mean, I've had similar sort of experiences to what this is describing, but that's been down to essentially it was as simple as just changing to a different set of frequencies that I was using on the Wi-Fi. The distribution of that. It was. I must admit, I've not seen it where the receiving of the satellite signal is what is been causing the interference. If you see what I mean. Wi-Fi, absolutely, and presumably that's how they're dispersing it within the cabin, obviously, and that will very easily bleed over into sort of radio receptors and stuff, especially if it's a half decent thing. But I've not seen that with the receiving of satellite signals. So it does mention that the Viasat system was susceptible to it as well. But again, is that because of the Wi-Fi platform that they're using, or is that
well, it could be anything down to power, just the power distribution to the antennas where the transmitter is and the amplifiers are.
If it's not clean for whatever reason, it could easily, yeah.
Well, I think you're right there. And just following on from that, I thought we might have a discussion. There's no story to read here specifically, but about GPS and GNS jamming and spoofing. And the reason that I want to talk about that, I mean, I know Andy's done a lot of work on this within his company, but I would quite like to have a quick discussion with you two fellas about this whole subject. And the reason for that was I noticed this week that there was a story about an A350 crew that were on finals to London Gatwick. But during the flight, very early on, they'd experienced GPS signal jamming over Egyptian airspace. I don't know where they'd come from, Sharm el-Sheikh or where they'd come from. But even by the time that they'd approached Gatwick, their GPS still hadn't fully recovered and was showing unreliable data. Now, I was really taken by that fact that it was still possible to have erroneous GPS data after the aircraft had left the area of concern, sort of thousands of miles behind it. So can you fellas educate me and the rest of our listeners on this subject?
I'll let you go first, John.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, I've experienced this going through Egypt, that area, generally Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the Red Sea area, and had the GPS, one of the GPSs just totally roll over and die, never recover. And that induced later on symptoms. And this may be what was going on. GPWIS, this is the ground proximity warning system, which uses GPS to access a train database. And so I was getting false warnings. And we had unreliable ADS-B signals going out. So I had one of my GPSs working, one did not. So I was able to switch the transponder to the other one, so the ADS-B was correct. But the system still had a real freak out with the ground proximity warning system at a totally inappropriate time. Luckily, I was in visual conditions and I could just turn the ignore button on to that and get rid of the noise for it. And it's definitely a problem. And I know when I've flown through Egypt where they have all this spoofing, because they tend to make the aircraft think it's either over Cairo, over someplace in Jordan, over someplace in Israel, over someplace in someplace else, and it freaks out the update of the whole aircraft database. Now, A350, I'm guessing has 3 IRUs, similar to what we have on a 7.4. The airplane will know where it's at. Plus, you can have access to ground-based receivers, so we have that as well, where we just look at nav signals on the ground, and we're able to get position updates from that. The aircraft is happy; he knows where it's at. Just one system gets freaked out, and maybe Andy's gonna know better than this. I imagine the systems are relatively similar.
Yeah, they are. So on most modern aircraft, I'm classing yours in there, John. Don't worry. Um, all of the signals for all of the different types of equipment go through what's called a multi-mode receiver. And this is the sort of collecting point for the GPS signals, the ILS signals, all of this stuff. And when the spoofing or jamming signals are sent, and these are constantly changing as well. We're seeing so many different things as all of these conflict areas develop and people come up with different ways of jamming each other. As John had there, sometimes you get GPWS warnings warning you about terrain when you're up at 38,000 feet. Other things we've seen is a terrain map shift. So we have the option, and most aircraft do, to overlay a world map of the terrain underneath you to tell you how high you are. And at times when some of our crews have been up over Cairo, it's shown them out over the sea, which is not correct. And hopefully, as you move away from these areas, most of the equipment comes back to life as it starts to get valid signals, because internally it's very clever. It looks at it and goes, this isn't right. This is definitely not right. So it just starts to discount it. Then in the case of if you've got at least two GPS systems, if it discounts both, then as John says, it'll go back to triple IRS mode. It'll update incredibly accurately via DME. So it'll take two different DMEs where the lines cross and update itself there. So we all have to remember, all of these aircraft, the 747 and the A320, were all flying long before GPS was fitted on them. And they all flew extremely accurately. Nobody fell out of the sky. It's an extra tool we can use to improve our accuracy. But at the end of the day, we can just get rid of it. Because it's always, on a side note here, as we've developed GPS and using satellite-based approach systems, it's always concerned me that we're getting rid of all of the ground-based equipment, which we know exactly where it is. So the VORs, the NDBs. And now, as we're heading into a world where all of this technology can be spoofed and jammed, now's the time we need that ground-based stuff back so that we can actually check our accuracy. So it's interesting. They will find ways around it to fix it, but it's basically a form of warfare now, this type of stuff. So they'll find a way to fix it, then they'll find a way to get around the fix, then they'll find a way to fix it. It'll just be continue evolving forever. And I don't know about you, John, but Airbus actually produce a GNSS interference checklist for entry to airspace where it's suspected, what you can do to turn things off, and then what to do in the airspace if some of these things happen. So I don't know if you've got anything like that from Boeing.
Yeah, we call it TLR, like technical letter, something. It came out about this, and basically was telling us on our Dash 8 aircraft, our DME update is standard off. For whatever reason, they decided to do that. So One of the things we do is we turn it back on. A lot of us will intentionally disable the GPS update when we go through the spoofing areas around the Red Sea. And it does cover a bit about that. There's also some software out there that's been free that you can use to sort of plot yourself on a map. And it compares the GPS signal from your iPad to the plotted location, gives you sort of an error. Plus, it looks for your GPS position starting to shift unusually. So it's supposed to can identify spoofing. I've used that when I go through those areas. I pull up that app and start sort of manually plotting along. Pretty much anytime I go through the Black Sea, anytime I go down through Egypt, Red Sea area, that app gets turned on early on, and I start plotting stuff to start getting a baseline and comparing it to where I think I should be. You just have to kind of be old school. And that's the nice thing about flying a dinosaur is she doesn't care about what's up in the sky. She cares about what's on the ground or what's inside of her. So,
and what do you think about this sort of the decommissioning of some of the VORs? Is this going to be a problem, do you think, going forward?
It will absolutely become a problem if they go too far with it. You need to keep a sufficient level of coverage for both en route and then again maybe in terminal areas. Certainly, larger terminal areas, you're going to need to have a larger, a couple selections of DMEs to give the best locations if you want to have the most accuracy. So if you think you're going to be suffering from that. That's going to be something that I think everybody needs to consider. I know that there was discussion here about in the Netherlands about shutting down a bunch of the VORs, and they simultaneously had a missed approach procedures here, which all went to the same location. And I'm like, if they jam either your communications or your navigation signals, that everybody's going to be trying to go to the same point in space at the same time and won't be able to talk to one another. This could be a problem. But they have to think these things out and make sure that they had the backups, not commit too much to just GPS. There's new technology I've seen coming out where they think they can use a SpaceX satellites to somewhat replace GPS because they do the same thing. They have a very accurate time signal, maybe not quite as accurate as what's on the GPS satellites or the GPS generic satellites. So there's some options out there. Plus, there's been development in antennas. I don't know how much Andy's been keeping up. I'm sure he probably sees more than I do. But I know there was some technology that are going out there to have some rejection of at least jamming. Spoofing was another question, depending on how it's coming in.
Yeah, spoofing is incredibly difficult for the system to work out. But jamming, the road I'm seeing Airbus go down is it's mainly software based. They're looking at the way can they build the software to be intelligent to go, we know this is definitely wrong, so let's just discount it and carry on as normal with the other system.
Yeah. I've found even just with my personal devices, I used to carry a bad elf until I left it on a plane, and I could take the bad elf and move to the opposite side of the aircraft from the offending country and generally keep my signal the entire time.
Oh, wow.
Flying across the Black Sea when we're heading eastbound, the FO usually keeps his iPad on GPS the entire flight, whereas mine on the left side gets knackered pretty much as soon as we go feet wet across the Black Sea and won't recover until, sometimes the air will see. Sometimes I have to turn it all the way off, turn it back on, hand it to the FO to put it back in his window so that I can get GPS back. On my iPad, the airplane generally recovers much faster, but sometimes it does take a while for that even as well. So,
yeah,
I think it's something we're going to see develop and change constantly now. It's not something that's ever going to go away.
Yeah, this is a very dynamic environment, isn't it?
Yeah.
No two ways about it. Well, continue on that theme. John's going to talk to us about some AirTag challenges as well, aren't you, John?
Oh yeah, this was my fun story I threw in for Nev. So this comes from the Lancashire Telegraph in the UK. Travel expert warned against using AirTags to track luggage. Holidays booked for many of us this summer. More and more people have been following social media trends that promise to make traveling as stress-free as possible. But one pilot-approved viral hack that uses an AirTag to help avoid lost luggage could, in fact, have the opposite effect, experts at Travel Bag have warned. Popular TikTok user The Pilot Twins have shared a video showing how putting an AirTag in your checked luggage could save you from losing it while traveling, thanks to the device's handy tracking feature. However, travel experts have warned against using this pilot-approved travel hack. Experts from Travel Bag, air quote that expert part, while this hack is done with its best intentions, the tracking abilities of the AirTags and other GPS tracking devices are not always suited to air travel. This could leave passengers feeling a false sense of security while leaving their luggage in the hold. Overall, while tracking devices in the luggage may work if you are in close proximity, if you are traveling longer distances, they may not. To avoid being without your precious items this year, make sure to take any important objects in your hand luggage to avoid them getting lost. They added, not all countries allow Apple AirTags to track within their airspace due to the individual data laws, meaning that this well-intentioned hack may no longer work when you arrive at your destination. Airlines using Apple AirTags to track lost bags. This is from the 1 mile at a time thing. As frequent travelers know, Apple AirTags are invaluable for tracking bags, especially given rates at which some airlines mishandle bags. The issue is that while Apple AirTags can tell you where your bags are, there hasn't been much integration with airlines in terms of being able to share that information with third parties. Several weeks ago, we learned about an exciting development when it comes to AirTags. There's now an update as United has announced how it's rolling out this technology. Apple has introduced Share Item Location, a new iOS feature that helps users locate and recover misplaced items easily by securely sharing the location of an AirTag or Find My network accessory with third parties. While this can be useful in a variety of situations, perhaps the best use case is for airlines when your bag is misplaced or lost. If you've ever dealt with a misplaced bag and had an Apple AirTag, you are probably aware of how frustrating this can be. You might know exactly where your bag is, but actually sharing that information with the airline and getting them to act based on it is easier said than done. This new feature is available as part of iOS 18-2, and I think we're up to 18.5 or so now, which is available to all users as a free software update for iPhone 10s and later. For those worried about privacy, the shared location will be disabled as soon as the user is reunited with their item and can be stopped by the owner at any time and will automatically expire after 7 days. Here's how Eddie Q, Apple's Senior VP of Services, described the technology. Find My is an essential tool for users around the world to keep track of find their belongings. The Find My network and AirTags have proven to be a powerful combination for users while traveling, providing invaluable location information when bags have been misplaced or mishandled. With Share Item Location, we're excited to give users a new way to easily share this information directly with third parties like airlines while protecting their devices. The airlines that will use this technology is, of course, the technology is being available as only one part of the equation. It's only so useful if airlines aren't on board with it. So there's good news on that front. In the coming months, more than 15 airlines will be accepting Find My item locations as part of their customer service process for locating mishandled or delayed bags. Initial airlines include Aer Lingus, Air Canada, Air New Zealand, Austrian Airlines, British Airways, Brussels Airlines, Delta Airlines, Eurowings, Iberia, KLM, Royal Dutch Airlines, Lufthansa, Qantas, Singapore Airlines, Swiss International Airlines, Turkish Airlines, United, Virgin Atlantic, and Vueling. More airlines will be added over time. I totally agree with the second story. I think that the first story was written by a moron.
Okay.
There we go.
I like the fact there's no ambiguity there at all.
Absolutely, yeah. Keep it nice and clear and obvious. Yeah. Love that.
I mean, I've certainly, I've benefited from the Apple AirTag thing. And actually, when I was working, we used to put them in flight cases as well that we were carrying around with us. Not actually on airlines specifically, but just so we knew where stuff was.
I bet.
It's been very good, I have to say, for the most part.
I do like the advice. Was it to avoid losing something that is very important to you? So I best not AirTag my child and put her in the hold anymore.
I do hope BA's IT will be able to keep up with all this. That's my main concern there.
Oh, yes.
It might crash your system.
They'll add another layer that the system can't handle. Yeah.
Well, that's the end of. Sorry, go on, John.
I was say I follow a guy, Deviant Olam. He's a penetration tester. That company does white hat sort of testing on breaking into places, and he travels all around the United States. Oftentimes, he carries weapons with him, for self-protection, and he regularly has problems with the TSA or the airlines misplacing his weapons and not getting them on the aircraft or not getting them off the aircraft or not returning them to him. And he's been tracking his stuff with these all the time. And that's, it's just been amazing to see how he can go, yeah, it's right behind that door. You just need to walk back there. And they're like, no, it's not there. It's in so-and-so. It's like, no, it's right behind that door. It's taking them a hard time just to convince them to walk back there and say, "Look, it should be beeping right now," and then they find it. It's like crazy.
I'd like to be the printing company that does his business cards with a title of penetration tester on. That would be something.
He's got a pretty cool channel. He's pretty chill guy. Lives up in the northwest of the United States. He, like I said, travels all over the world, and he talks about how to break into hotel rooms, how to defeat locks and motion detectors. It's been interesting learning about it, like how to hack elevators. So it's an interesting channel, but his travel stuff's been kind of funny because it's he's just on airplanes so much. I can kind of respect where he's at because he knows what's going on. He like to the point where he knows the crews. So.
What a great story. That's fantastic, John. Thanks for sharing that with us. That was superb. Well, that's the end of the commercial news section. But actually, we're continuing the theme of hacking and all the rest of it, because today, for the first time ever, I went to the Bletchley Park facility, which is not very far from me. It's about half an hour drive. And it's somewhere I've been wanting to go to for years and years and years. It's an incredibly popular facility. So I decided to do a quick video on that. And many thanks to Bletchley Park for letting me use some of the still images, which I downloaded from their website as well for this article. But I think you might be interested. So, Matt, if you'd like to play the tape. Considering I've lived in Buckinghamshire for most of my life, it is a little surprising that I've never visited Bletchley Park until today. It was an excellent day out, so let me tell you a little more about it. Well, Bletchley Park is an English country house and estate in Bletchley, Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire that became the principal centre of Allied code breaking during the Second World War. During World War II, the estate housed the government code and cipher school, which regularly penetrated the secret communications of the Axis powers, most importantly the German Enigma and Lorenz ciphers. The team at Bletchley Park devised automatic machinery to help with decryption, culminating in the development of Colossus, the world's first programmable digital electronic computer. Code-breaking operations at Bletchley Park ended in 1946, and all information about the wartime's operations was classified until the mid-1970s. After the war, it had various uses and now houses the Bletchley Park Museum. A mansion was first built there in 1711, with the current house built in the 1870s. In 1938, the mansion and much of the site was bought by a builder for a housing estate. But in May 1938, Admiral Sir Hugh St Clair, head of the Secret Intelligence Service, bought the mansion and 58 acres of land for £6,000, which would be about £484,000 in today's money, for use by Code and Cipher School and SIS in the event of war. That's the Secret Intelligence Service. He used his own money as the government said they did not have the budget to do so. After the United States joined World War II, a number of American cryptographers were posted to Hut 3, and from May 1943 onwards there was close cooperation between British and American intelligence, leading to the 1943 Brucer Agreement, which was the forerunner of the Five Eyes Partnership. In contrast, the Soviet Union was never officially told of Bletchley Park and its activities, a reflection of Churchill's distrust of the Soviets even during the UK, US and USSR alliance imposed by the Nazi threat. However, Bletchley Park was infiltrated by the Soviet mole John Cairncross, who was a member of the Cambridge spy ring who leaked Ultra material to Moscow. After the war, the secrecy imposed on Bletchley staff remained in force so that most relatives never knew more than a child or spouse or parent had done some kind of secret work there. Churchill referred to the Bletchley staff as the geese who laid the golden eggs and never cackled. That said, occasional mentions of the work performed at Bletchley Park slipped the censor's net and appeared in print. The site passed through a succession of hands and saw a number of uses, including as a teacher training college and local GPO headquarters. By 1991, the site was nearly empty and the buildings were at risk of demolition for redevelopment before the gradual development of the Bletchley Park Museum. The Government Code and Cipher School became the Government Communications Headquarters, which was moved to Eastcote in 1946 and to Cheltenham in the 1950s. The site was used by various government agencies, including the GPO and the Civil Aviation Authority. One large building, Block F, was demolished in 1987, by which time the site was being run down with tenants leaving. Until the mid-1970s, the 30-year rule meant that there was no official mention of Bletchley Park. This meant that there were many operations where codes broken by Bletchley Park played an important role, but this was not present in the history of those events. Not until July 2009 did the British government fully acknowledge the contribution of the many people working at Bletchley Park. Only then was a commemorative medal struck to be presented to those involved. The gilded medal bears the inscription GC and CS 1939 to 1945, Bletchley Park and its outstations. The Bletchley Park Museum operates on the current site with a learning centre and a science centre. Other organisations share the campus, including the National Museum of Computing and the Radio Society of Great Britain's National Radio Centre. Well, I must say that I really enjoyed my day at Bletchley Park, and you can download many podcasts that they have recorded about the history of the site and the activities that were carried out there. So just search for Bletchley Park in your favourite podcast app and you'll see all 179 episodes available for you to listen to. Well, I hope you enjoyed that.
Thanks, Nev. That was great. Love that.
It was a fascinating day out, and of course that was where Alan Turing worked for many years as well. For those who didn't know that, yeah, if you want so much history there and fascinating. I mean, talk about a manual process. I mean, there was nearly 9,000 people worked there at the height of it all, and they were not allowed to tell their family where they worked. They just said, oh, we're doing an admin job, and there's a lot of secrecy around it, of course, but it did enable a lot of communications to be intercepted and to be decoded and unencrypted. So yeah, and obviously this work still goes on today, but it's over at GCHQ in Cheltenham. But we're not using rotary things and stuff that whirs anymore. It's extremely high-powered computers and data sets.
Yeah, clever stuff.
So if you haven't had a chance to go and you're around that area, the railway station's right next to it as well. So it's very easy to get to Bletchley railway station. And it's only about an hour out of London in the car. So, no, fascinating place to go. And the nice thing about them, well, apart from the fact they do an over 60s ticket, which is very good for Mrs. Nev and myself, that actually counts as your annual ticket. So you can go back as many times as you want within a 12-month period without paying any more money.
Oh, nice.
They've got a really nice cafe there as well. Rather excellent sausage roll, I have to say, today. Yeah, really good place. So if you're in the UK and you fancy going, just look up bletchleypark.org.uk and all the ticket information is on there. Right. Well, we're going to continue the military theme. And we've got a bumper crop of military stuff to get through. So, Matt, if you're ready.
Bogies 135, 50, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. Undersea Bogies.
Well, the first story is for Andy, and he's, as it's an Airbus story, of course, he's got some information about the A400M with the German Air Force.
Yes, and this is from Airbus.com, and it's more safety for A400M crews. Airbus signs contract to equip German Air Force A400Ms with infrared protection systems. Airbus has been awarded a contract from the German government to equip 23 Luftwaffe A400s with DIRCM protection systems. DIRCM stands for Direct Infrared Countermeasures and will protect the military transport aircraft from missiles with infrared seekers. Under the contract just signed, the company will also provide services including training, service bulletins and tools. Transporting troops, equipment and humanitarian supplies, refueling other aircraft and helicopters in the air, serving as a flying hospital for the treatment of wounded personnel, the Airbus A400M is the face and workhorse of the German Air Force, said Gerd Verber, head of the A400 program at Airbus Defence and Space. The new DIRCM system will provide A400M crews with even greater protection during their missions around the world and expand the already broad range of applications for this exceptional aircraft. Airbus teams will install the equipment from Elbit Systems on a total of 23 aircraft during scheduled maintenance at Airbus facilities in southern Germany and Seville, Spain. These 23 aircraft are used for tactical operations, including medical evacuations, missions in crisis areas. In contrast, the logistical variant of the A400M is deployed for standard operations such as long-range transport of troops, heavy armoured vehicles, helicopters or specialised civil engineering equipment. Airbus is currently putting the system through its paces in Seville on a German Air Force A400M, and certification is scheduled for summer 2025 with installation of all 23 A400Ms by 2032. There we are. Extra protection.
Yes. I think the other thing is that there's definitely a theme, isn't there, where there's a lot of equipment being retrofitted to existing aircraft to deal with new threats that they are coming across around the world. And obviously that's a very important part of the operation of these things. But I still like the A400M. We had one come over here at about 2,000 feet the other day. Very distinctive sound. There's no other aircraft that sounds like it, is there?
I seem to remember
it's a very, very distinct sound.
I seem to remember when we were at Farnborough. I think it was it the first time, Nev, we went, and they had there was the A400M, and I want to say it's the 380. Perhaps it wasn't. It might have been something else. But there was two Airbus products, sort of like doing a bit of a dance in the air together, wasn't there? I think not the last time we went, but the first time we went.
I think you're right. Yes, there was an A400M and an A380 in the air at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely stunning. It was, as you say. It is, as you say, but it's a very distinctive noise, and I think it's definitely those props, isn't it? I think that gives it that sort of thump.
Yeah. Absolutely. But no, very capable aircraft, and no, brilliant that the order book is very full, and people from around the world want to buy it. So that's great. This next story is on the BBC.com, and the headline says it's the RAF pilot's final flight after 45 years in the air. I don't think they mean continuously. But anyway, he said he was quite emotional after making his final solo flight after a 45-year career which saw him amass around 16,000 hours in the air. Flight Lieutenant Richard Offord, 64, from Richmond, North Yorkshire, first took to the skies for the Air Force in 1980 and had been based at RAF Leeming since 1998. Well, during his career, he piloted several different models of fast jet, and in 1995 was forced to eject from his Tornado F3 after a mid-air collision. Flight Lieutenant Offord said he was a bit sad about his retirement, but was saluted by fire engines upon landing at RAF Leeming and surprised by colleagues, family and friends, but added, "I've had a pretty good innings." After his final flight, Flight Lieutenant Offord, who is RAF Leeming's longest-serving fast jet pilot, said, "I started flying fighters in 1982. It's quite a long time, so I'm not too upset. However," he said at the time, his time in the sky had not fully come to an end. "I'll carry on flying, but I can't do it in military planes," he explains. "You can only do it up to age 65, and unfortunately I'm 65 on Tuesday, so this is it." Asked about any dramatic incidents during his long career, Flight Lieutenant Offord said, "I was once knocked out and woke up on the ground in Lincolnshire. We were doing air combat and I bumped into the other aircraft. So his tail and my wing came off. They don't fly very well without tails or wings. Pondering his lucky escape further, he added, I didn't fly for a year due to back injuries, but all 4 of us ejected and everyone walked away. So that's the main thing. Probably got a Martin Baker tie as well out of that, I would imagine. Speaking about the surprise welcoming committee and celebrations waiting for him after he landed for the final time in his Hawk Hunter RF Leeming, Flight Lieutenant Offord said, I had a little tear, to be fair. I had no idea that they were going to be here, he said, and the whole reception with mates and fire engines, it's made me a bit emotional. That's an understatement, I would imagine, isn't it?
Yeah,
What an aircraft to do your last flight in as well. A
Well,
Hawk
yeah,
Hunter.
absolutely.
Absolute beast.
I do like hearing stories of former military pilots, and they talk about these pretty major incidents in a very matter-of-fact way, don't they? Yeah, I had to eject, but
run of the mill
things
stuff,
happen.
really. Yeah,
Yeah.
casual
Oh,
casualties. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but an incredible innings. So 16,000 hours is a lot of military flying, isn't it? Absolutely incredible.
Wow, that's tons and tons for military flying. They fly usually a lot shorter flights. And,
Yeah.
that's an incredible amount.
Yeah. So, John, next story is your one.
Yeah, this one's from defense-industry.eu. Lockheed Martin completes final assembly of the 9th F-35A fighter jet for Belgium. Lockheed Martin has completed final assembly of the 9th F-35A Lightning II multi-role combat aircraft for Belgium at its facility in Fort Worth. According to both parties, this is the first Belgium-designated aircraft that will be delivered directly to Belgium after acceptance. The delivery is scheduled to take place later this year, with Florianaz Air Base set to become its home unit. 8 earlier aircraft delivered in December 2024 are currently based at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona for training purposes. These jets are used to train both flying and technical personnel from Belgium. In total, Belgium has ordered 34 F-35A aircraft through the Foreign Military Sales Program. Belgium is currently considering the purchase of additional aircraft, which would be assembled in Italy. Lockheed Martin has so far delivered over 1,185 F-35 Lightning II aircraft of all variants worldwide using 3 final assembly lines. The global F-35 fleet has logged more than 1 million flight hours. To date, nearly 3,000 pilots and over 18,000 workers controlled on the aircraft. So, yeah, it's great to see those aircraft are coming online, and they'll bring immense capabilities to European theater. Their ability to integrate data is unparalleled, and to use it and distribute it back to others is such a force multiplier. So it's going to be good for NATO and all the countries here to see that.
Yeah, I think we've got a bit of an audio problem with your feed, John. And Richard Adams says he reckons that some of those jammers are after you, John.
Yes, absolutely. So, either that or we have a Dalek in the building. I'm not quite sure which.
Yeah.
Great Dalek sound, actually.
Yeah, it's like you've essentially achieved there what the BBC spent a small fortune in doing when it.
Oh dear!
But the important thing is we got the gist that there he is, he's back.
Let us go analog, old school like my airplane.
Love that.
Yeah, plugged in. Yeah, it started having some issues a little while ago, and I thought I'd fix it by resetting it.
No, it's all good. But we as I say, we got the gist of the story and stuff. As you say, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, that's good. Good to see those aircraft coming online. That's what I was trying to get to. Is that the capabilities they have are unparalleled in the world right now.
Absolutely.
And finally, you might have seen this in the press this week. This is on forcesnews.com. Military career gave Day of the Jackal author Frederick Forsyth a unique perspective. Well, people have taken to social media to pay their respects to RAF veteran and investigative journalist and Day of the Jackal author Frederick Forsyth, who has died at the age of 86 after a short illness. Authors, historians and avid readers are amongst those who have expressed their sadness over the death of a man described by many as the master of the modern thriller. Known perhaps more for the success of his novels, the author, who sold 75 million books around the world, wanted to become a fighter jock as a child. Lying about his age, a young Forsyth enlisted in the RAF at 17. He was commissioned as an acting pilot officer on the 28th of August 1956, just 3 days after his 18th birthday, making him the youngest pilot to qualify in the RAF. He honed his skills as a pilot whilst flying the de Havilland Vampire, thrilled to be flying a single-seat jet. However, on the 8th of August 1957, his fellow pilot, Flight Officer Derek Brett, and his instructor, Flight Officer Philip Jones, died when their Vampire XE-866 crashed during a training flight from RAF Worksop. Of this devastating time, Mr. Forsyth later wrote, "We realised this thing, the Vampire, was not just a sports car loaned by a generous queen. It was 10 tons of aluminium and steel that, if you did not treat with respect, would kill you." After a year of service, Mr. Forsyth was regraded to pilot officer in August 1957. After completing 2 years of national service, he transitioned to the Royal Auxiliary Air Force on the 30th of October 1958, where he ascended to the rank of flying officer. Of his service, he later wrote, "The thing about wings is that they are yours and yours alone. You fight and you struggle, you study and you learn, you practice and you persevere, and you finally do it alone, high above the clouds in a single-seater." His time in the military gave Forsyth a unique perspective that would later inform his journalism and help him write gripping novels. In 1961, Forsyth joined Reuters, marking the beginning of his career as a journalist. He revealed in 2015 that he had spent 20 years working for MI6 after being approached in 1970 about sending information back as a volunteer, sending back information as a volunteer from the Biafran War in Nigeria. Mr. Forsyth's military career had a profound effect on his writing. His success is in part due to his understanding of military operations and espionage. His experience as a pilot in the RAF and his time working as a journalist in conflict zones provided him with unique insights into the complexities of warfare and geopolitics. This background enabled him to write authentic plots with realistic details, as seen in novels such as The Day of the Jackal and The Odessa File. Mr. Forsyth's first-hand knowledge of the armed forces added a layer of credibility and tension to his thrillers. On why he started writing novels, he said, "I was skint, in debt, no flat, no car, no nothing, and I just thought, how do I get myself out of this hole? And I came up with probably the zaniest solution to write a novel." Well, The Day of the Jackal was turned into a film in 1973, starring Edward Fox, and then turned into a TV drama starring Eddie Redmayne last year. But very sad, but what an incredible career that gentleman has had.
Absolutely.
Even before he was writing novels and thrillers.
A great career, as you say. Not a bad innings, though, I suppose.
No,
that's the only thing. But yeah, fascinating gentleman. I hope it's all been documented.
Isn't it a shame that we don't often find out about some of these things until someone's passed away and you start reading their obituary. You don't actually see it at the time, do you?
Yeah, very true.
There we go. Well, thanks everybody for all your contributions there for commercial and military. Just a quick recap on the air shows that we are doing this year. We'll be at the Summer Air Show at Duxford on June the 21st. If you want to get tickets for that, I think they're still available, but you must include a £5 parking ticket if you want to park your car on the site. And children go free if they're 15 years or younger, but they must be accompanied by an adult. So it's £54.50, which does include the £5 parking ticket, although you do get a discount if you're an Imperial War Museum member, and that goes down to £49.55. Saturday, July 26th, will be at the Shuttleworth Summer Air Show. Hopefully the weather's good for all this as well. Gates open at 9 o'clock and the first flying commences at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's also a second flying session which happens at 7:30 in the evening, and that goes all the way through to 8:30 with the gates closing at 9 o'clock. It's £42 for an adult, and if you're a member at Shuttleworth, it's £36 and children go free. And one of our biggest ones that we're doing this year is on August the 2nd. That's the Bray Air Display. It's the biggest public event in Ireland, the free one. And more details you can get on their website, in fact, at brayairdisplay.com. Car parking there is €12, and you must have a car parking permit in order to park your car. Well, Carlos and I are going to be there. Had some more conversations with our chum Alan White and his colleague Morton, who's also going to be there yesterday, about some of the things that we're hopefully going to get up to with crew interviews and this sort of stuff. So Carlos is coming over with me as well, so we should have a good time. Again, hopefully the weather is okay. And finally, August the 30th, Beccles, we've got our PTUK summer meetup. More details available later on, but I'm assuming good food, good company and good flying.
Always.
As long as the weather's behaving itself.
Yeah. It's the one thing we don't have control over, Nev. That's the trouble.
No, absolutely. So anyway, Andy, do you want to just tell folks where they can find us on the socials?
Yes, absolutely. You can find us on Facebook, X and Instagram simply by searching for Plane Talking UK. You can email us podcast@planetalkinguk.com, or you can find us on our website, www.planetalkinguk.com. And the WhatsApp, is that the current number, guys? Is that correct?
It is, yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, lovely. So if you want to send us a message, it's +44 7446 975 214. And why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? You'll get notifications when we go live, and you can help shape the conversation of the show by joining us in the chat room. Simply go to youtube.com and search for Plane Talking UK and subscribe.
Excellent. Well done, sir. Thank you very much indeed. So we'll start to bring the show to a close. Just find out what folks are doing. John, what's your plan for the next week or so?
I am maybe going to go get checked out in the airplane tomorrow. They think they got it maybe fixed. We'll see if that works. Otherwise, sometime next week, plan is to be off to Germany to do this testing we're doing with the 337, and that's about it. I may or may not be around next week to watch the show or beyond, whatever the case is. So we'll see.
Very good. Well, I really appreciate your contributions this week and last week as well, John. They've been absolutely fascinating. And as always, it's terrific to listen to your experience, and really, really good. So thank you. Andy, what are you up to?
Rest of this week just working from home. Next week, I will be in the hotel studio next Wednesday night.
Okay.
Because I'm back down south going to play in the simulator to come up with more crazy ideas. So I'll be back next week.
Love that.
But no real flying yet.
No.
And if there is, only as a passenger.
Not even that. Not even that.
Oh, no.
Or just sitting in the back of the sim criticising his student for not doing it properly.
Excellent.
Unbelievable. That only ever happens to you, Nev.
I know, yes. Well, that's because I don't do it properly. That's perhaps what it is.
I'm going to bring a big stick next time so I can just whack you from the back.
That's it. Matt, what's your plans for this week and a half or so?
Not a lot, really. Got it's Mum's birthday tomorrow. So I think we've actually got a weekend of sort of doing sort of mum birthday related things. So that's going to be quite nice. And then the rest of this week, obviously looking after the most precious cargo in the entire world. Those boys.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. The cats. Yeah. How they've been behaving themselves?
They've been, I'll be honest with you, and I've told Carlos this as well. So this is the first night was a bit nerve-wracking because Dave basically just ran away from me every time I tried to, and he wouldn't let me put food down or anything. He was just every time I went anywhere, he went, poof, gone. In stark contrast to this morning, where I was awoken to a cat bum in the face while I was being all We're just like, morning, lovely. All right, okay, we've got over that, have we? Excellent. So yeah,
the pencil sharpeners we call
indeed,
it.
indeed.
Yeah.
But it's been it's been quite lovely actually. They're very very affectionate, and it has been lovely. It really has. And yeah, they are behaving themselves. I mean, the lounge looks like it's been destroyed by these various toys. I mean, it's like there's toys everywhere.
Well, it doesn't really matter because they're moving house, aren't they? So it's it's not a big thing anymore, is it? Really?
I know it'll be my last. I guess it'll be my last visit here. I guess because I think they move as soon as they come home.
Yeah, gosh, nothing. So we're going to see Carlos next week, or is he still on his holidays?
He's back Saturday, so I imagine we will see him. He wouldn't be able to cope being away for more than 1 week.
That's a good point, actually, isn't it? Yes.
Be a day of mourning, I think, if that were the case. But yeah, I think
he's irritated all those people at the Aviation Museum in Malta.
All right, I have no doubt.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
What about you, Nev? What have you got on your schedule?
Well, it's tomorrow is the wedding anniversary. But I've been married for over 40 years, but just not necessarily to the same person. That's all. That's the way I describe it. Sue and I are going out for a Miller and Carter lunch tomorrow.
What's a Miller and Carter lunch?
Well, a bit of a steakhouse kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
But before that, we've got to go through the pain of the Keep Fit class.
Oh.
So you're not allowed to. There's no free lunch in this business.
No.
Probably gather.
Okay.
So I've got an hour of pain and agony. At least I can have some steak and chips afterwards.
How are you finding it though, Nev? Because you've been doing it a while now.
Well, yeah, it's been difficult, put it that way. But there's people that are a lot older than me, and I mean people in their 75 or 80s are a lot fitter than I am because they're a lot lighter than I am. They've been doing it a lot longer too. So, but yeah, it's okay. But I'm doing a lot more walking now. I'm trying to go swimming as often as I can. So I've got to get rid of those. The last 6 years of customer dinners and hospitality stuff that I've been doing, which was extremely enjoyable, I have to say.
I was going to say, yeah.
It does have an effect on your health and the waistline and all the rest of it. So
I bet.
Get on. But, and then what have we got? Oh, Father's Day on Sunday as well.
Ah, yeah.
What have the kids got planned for me? Could it be a sim experience somewhere? Could it be a flight on a Spitfire? Last year it was a cheap bottle of wine. So
right, okay. Perhaps one would suggest don't get your hopes up then, Nev. No, indeed. What, John and Andy? What about you? Anything sort of nice planned for you for Father's Day?
Not a clue.
Okay, fair.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that's how it should be.
Yeah,
same here.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I sort of had my Father's Day surprise last weekend. My daughter said, "Hey, Monday, come over to Zandvoort with me and come watch my boyfriend race around the track." I thought, okay, that'd be kind of fun to go do and see. And I got there and got to go take a ride in a Porsche 933, I think it was, race car around Zandvoort, which was exhilarating and terrifying simultaneously and painful simultaneously, but would do it again totally in a heartbeat. And then later on, I got really surprised. The boyfriend's father took me around in the BMW, not in the right seat, but in the left seat, where you properly drive a car. And I got to drive around said racetrack and scare myself simultaneously and exhilarating, which was just an amazing experience. I had a blast doing that. So I'm just kind of set for Father's Day. I'll just be happy to hang around and do nothing.
Yeah, fantastic. Sounds a brilliant experience, John. Well done. So, well, that's it for the show this week. Thank you very much to everyone in the chat room that's joined us this week. Thanks to Andy and thanks to you, John, for some great discussions we've had today. Lots of people in the chat room said how much they enjoyed it. And Matt, thank you again for pressing all the buttons in the unusual studio that you're in.
Absolutely. I've got away with it, Nev. I think that's the...
You do realise when Carlos is back next week, he won't be able to make anything work because you'll have adjusted everything.
I like
you like it.
when he does the radio next as well, he's got a nasty surprise or 12 to wait for, because the way that everything's sent to the studio has changed as well.
Fantastic. Nothing like a curved ball.
I've got a feeling I'm going to have a couple of nights of tech support to look forward to anyway.
Yeah, that could happen. Absolutely. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. We've really enjoyed your company tonight, and hope you have a great rest of the week and the weekend. We'll be back on Wednesday, 7:00 UK time, when the man from Malta will be back in his seat, and we'll have a chat with him, see how he got on. In the meantime, hope you have a great week. Bye for now.
And there we are. It's in the can.
Lovely. Very nice.
Excellent.
Thank you, John. Really good job there. Very
Yeah,
interesting discussion
no worries.
about GPS jamming and snooping and all the challenges that go with that. And that's,
So frustrated with it.
I think we're just on.
so
I've
dumb.
got this feeling we're just on the start of that journey, don't you?
Yeah, this technology stuff is going to go crazy, and I think we'll be back to the old school celestial nav if it keeps up. So
Presumably, though, before you depart the gate, you're putting in what I would call hard coding the lat and long into the IRS anyway, so the aircraft's got an absolute position of where it started from to align the platforms.
yeah, generally we do that through a GPS fix. So as long as we got a good GPS fix, everything matches. We just dump that in there. We can manually input the location. Almost every stand on the airport will have it. And if worst case scenario happens and we're GPS denied totally, when we put the runway in, we usually will say where on the runway we're going to take off. If it's the end or one of the taxiways, and then that will be encoded on the IRSs when we hit the toga buttons to take off. So there are lots of ways to update everything.
Yeah, Buzz does the
Matt?
same.
Matt, if you're there, I sent you some WhatsApps with the two cars I rode in and drove.
Oh,
maybe you
unfortunately,
wanna-
they're with Carlos.
Oh, okay.
I don't have access to them. That's the one thing I forgot to do before he went on holiday.
I was trying to share some real quick for you. It was fun,
sorry.
but oh well. Well, you guys get a hold of it later on. Anyways, hey, Nev, can you share my contact info with Andy for me? So you,
Absolutely, yeah, no problem.
that'd be greatly appreciated. I'd
Yep,
love to see
sure.
what you got there, Andy.
No worries. It's nothing major. Don't worry.
I take it all.
Pilot
I'm
talks
a
to
safety
Boeing.
geek, so I'm a big safety geek. I wear a safety lanyard to prove it.
Nice. Nice.
I want to make like vestments, like priest wears. It says safety on one side and FOCO on the other.
Yeah, absolutely. All right then. Well, I think we'll close down the stream then. Thank you to everyone who has joined in this evening. Busy chat room as always.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't think we've let the side down, have we, Nev? I think we've done well.
Well, you know, how can I put this? He's not here to criticise, is he? So.
Oh yeah, he's already said he's going to watch it tomorrow.
Oh,
I might take it offline so that
I would. Yeah,
put a bit of geo blocking on Malta.
This is where
great idea.
this is where I text him shortly and go, "That's the best show we've ever done."
Yeah, absolutely. Technically, it was brilliant. The conversation was brilliant.
Awesome.
Marvellous. All right then, Nev, as always, then perhaps I could trouble you to say goodbye.
Yep, thanks, Matt, for joining in today and helping us. As always, brilliant job, excellent job in Carlos's garage. Meanwhile, hope everyone has a great week and the weekend. We'll see you next Wednesday, 7 o'clock UK time. Bye for now.